Khan. Shalom, shalom. First, I'd like to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham Yahushai, Bahasham Recha HaKodash, Barakatha Yahweh, Bahasham Yahushai, Bahasham Recha HaKodash. Giving double honor to the elder apostles, the elder bishops, and the elders of the Great Millstone, GMS, who rule well and who teach well, and salutations to the elect as always. Abaratazah, which means Father willing. So Father willing, this lesson is edifying. So today we shall go into the book of Judith, chapter 4. Alright. And yeah, welcome back to the channel. Welcome to the channel if it's your first time around here. Alright. So let's go into it. Judith chapter 4, verse 1 reads, Now the children of Israel that dwelt in Judea heard all that Holofernes, the chief captain of Nebuchadnezzar, king of the Assyrians, had done to the nations, and after what manner he had spoiled all their temples and brought them to naught. Therefore they were exceedingly afraid of him, and were troubled for Jerusalem and for the temple of the Lord their God. For they were newly returned from the captivity, and all the people of Judea were lately gathered together, and the vessels, and the altar, and the house were sanctified after the profanation. Now it does not exactly specify what this captivity is that they were newly returned from, but this might be in reference to the Babylonian exile. You know, it may be a point that scholars tried to bring up to say, you know, well, how can that link up if Nebuchadnezzar is in power now? All right, but here it's talking about the return of the exile. All right, verse 4. Therefore they sent into all the coasts of Samaria and the villages, and to Betharon and Belman and Jericho and to Choba and Ezerah and to the valley of Salem, and possessed themselves beforehand of all the tops of the high mountains, and fortified the villages that were in them, and laid up victuals for the provision of war. Right, they readied themselves and got prepared. For their fields were of late reaped. Okay, thankfully they had just reaped the harvest, so they had a sufficient amount in store. Therefore they could fill up their storehouses and you know be good and all that. All right, and well prepared, basically be good and well prepared. Verse 6. Also Joachim the high priest, which was in those days in Jerusalem, wrote to them that dwelt in Bethulia and Betomethsam, which is over against Esdraelon, toward the open country near to Dothaim, charging them to keep the passages of the hill country, for by them there was an entrance into Judea, and it was easy to stop them that would come up. All right, so they were to guard those passages, because there was a route that would make way into Judea from there, and so they were to guard it. All right, there was an entrance into Judea. All right, okay, and it was easy to stop them that would come up, because the passages were straight for 2 men at the most. All right, so the passage was only small, so it would be a good, easy place to stop the enemy, because only 2 men could go in there at once. Okay. All right. Verse 8. And the children of Israel did as Joachim the high priest had commanded them, with the ancients of all the people of Israel which dwelt at Jerusalem. Then every man of Israel cried to God with great fervency, and with great vehemency did they humble their souls. Verse 10. Both they and their wives and their children and their cattle and every stranger and hireling and their servants bought with money put sackcloth upon their loins. Verse 11. Thus every man and woman and the little children and the inhabitants of Jerusalem fell before the temple and cast ashes upon their heads and spread out their sackcloth before the face of the Lord. Also they put sackcloth about the altar. So they were obviously in a very distressed state and mourning and crying out to the Lord. Okay. 12. And cried to the God of Israel, all with one consent, earnestly, that he would not give their children for a prey, and their wives for a spoil, and the cities of their inheritance to destruction, and the sanctuary to profanation and reproach. Yeah, so that the Lord would deliver them. Okay? And these nations wouldn't take them, right? And take their children and defile the temple. Alright? And for the nations to rejoice at. So God heard their prayers and looked upon their afflictions, for the people fasted many days in all Judea and Jerusalem before the sanctuary of the Lord Almighty. And Joachim the high priest, and all the priests that stood before the Lord, and they which ministered unto the Lord, had their loins girt with sackcloth, and offered the daily burnt offerings, with the vows and free gifts of the people, and had ashes on their meat-trees, and cried unto the Lord with all their power, that he would look upon all the house of Israel graciously. Alright, so yeah, that brings us to the end of this chapter. Alright, just a quick breakdown. Lord willing, this quick chapter breakdown was edifying to whoever was watching and listening. Alright, as always, in closing, Kal Halal Yahweh, Bahasham Yahweh Shai, Bahasham Rakak Kodash, Tawada for tuning in. Okay, stay safe, peace, love, and respect. Shalom. Okay, again, double honor to the elder apostles, the elder bishops, and the elders at Great Millstone GMS. Alright, Shalom for now.